Awkward silence between audience and speakers.
I mean, we still have.
Should why don't we just get
Yeah,
started?
I think we can start.
He said, can we just get started? The room is full anyway, so it's not like we are waiting for more people to come.
All right. So a very, very good morning to everyone. Thank you for coming in bright and early on a day 3 of the Impact Summit. So we are starting off today with what I think is a very important um, issue, right, that needs to be discussed, which is the use of AI in manufacturing, right? And we will try and touch upon not only the positives, but also some of the more pertinent questions, right? Jobs, uh, the geopolitics, to where does India stand, right, on this? And on this panel, I am joined by Amit, who is the director of robotic systems and edge computing at NVIDIA. Uh, Raghu, who's the CEO of Art Park at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. The Art Park is one of, or is probably the most prominent robotics and AI incubator, right, in the country. So just to set a bit of context beforehand, this year, 2026, is a sort of major inflection point on a couple of counts, right? First is specifically for manufacturing, because the session is about manufacturing and Indian manufacturing. It's been a decade since Make in India has started. There have been some successes, but we can all agree it's not lived up to its complete potential, right? The hope is, with the deals that have been now struck with the US and the EU, that there will be some sort of a boost this year, and it has to be this year, because the geopolitical window of opportunity is narrowing, and narrowing rapidly. The second is AI. It has been just over 3 years since uh, ChatGPT, as we know it, was released for the public. But now the conversations are not so much about what is the AI that you see on screen, right? But how does the AI go from the screen to just everywhere around us, right? What NVIDIA terms physical AI, right? And manufacturing is the single most important use case for such AI at this point of time. And given these two inflection points, where does India stand, right? And how can we leverage this opportunity, right? To start off with, I'll start with Tamit. Tamit, if you can provide a bit of a context about what is it that we mean when we say AI and robotics in manufacturing, and what is the difference between an automated uh, factory and an autonomous a unit?
Thanks for the introduction. Thank you all for joining us this morning. I'm Amit Goyal. I head our robotics and edge computing ecosystem at NVIDIA. Really glad to be here today. I started my robotics journey 20 years ago in Delhi College of Engineering, so this is very as close to home as it gets. So to answer your question about AI and what it means and robotics means for manufacturing, we are seeing that the expectations of manufacturing are dramatically changing. If you go to an automotive plant today in the West, the lines building used to take 18 to 24 months to build a line. But now the expectations of what you want out of manufacturing is changing. The product lines are changing. The customer demands are changing. So what a modern manufacturing requires is agility. it requires an ability to change on a dime. Every 3 months, you should be able to make a new product. The second thing that's expected is your products should have a really high quality bar, right? Because it's a competitive, these products are expensive, the consumers are more demanding, so the quality of the products has to be really good. And the third thing that is important is efficiency or the cost or productivity of your manufacturing. So combining these three things, first is agility, second is productivity and efficiency, and third is quality. If you put all of these three in perspective, you will see that the way we have been doing manufacturing dramatically needs to change. And that's where AI and robotics comes into play. What robotics does is, and what AI and autonomy does is, it makes manufacturing, which is a super hardware, physical process, and converts it into a software-defined problem. You can create models, you can create replicas, digital twins, and just like we've been doing in the IT world, where a new software update gets released every month, we should be able to do a new physical update to our factories every month. This will bring the agility. The second thing that AI will do is, because you're using robotics, you know exactly same things will be done over and over again. I was recently in one of our contract manufacturers who build some of our servers, and asking, they were showing me applications where they wanted to bring robotics, and I said, why do you need a robot to do this? And it turns out it was not about the mechanical task of putting things. It was about, when you're putting that thing, you're also inspecting and checking the quality. And they've seen that as the day progresses, the human ability to do that degrades. So you cannot build a product with a high quality if you don't have AI systems that are helping you with the quality checks, right? So AI today, with the inspection solutions that are available with computer vision, you can have a predictable quality bar consistently, right? So, and the third part is robotics. Robotics is what makes your line, go really fast. This is where it reduces your productivity concern. This is what it reduces your cost. So I think bringing AI, which is actually living in the physical world, making it a software-defined problem so you can iterate really fast, really helps address that problem, and that is what the new manufacturing expectations are. And that's why AI and robotics is absolutely critical to the success of manufacturing.
Thanks a lot, Amit. And just a very quick sort of follow-up. If do you see such factories coming up across the world at this point of time, like anywhere, China, US?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the manufacturers recently in China, they shipped their 1,000th car out of a factory in 9 months from day zero, which was a record. The previous number, I think, was about 3 years. So, and one of the big things there was everything was done in digital first. You make the entire process autonomous. You have make it a software-defined, fully digital factories, so that even before you break the ground, you exactly know what to expect out of your system. So that's what the modern manufacturing looks like.
Raghu, so India, right? Just a couple of questions to start with there. First is, do you see such factories coming up in India also? And second is, given that you work closely with Indian startups, Indian companies, right, in the space, and the fact that most of Indian manufacturing is defined by SMEs, right? Not so much the large manufacturers as they are in China. What role do you see AI and robotics playing for them? Right?
Sure. First, just a minute to introduce ourselves. The ART in Art Park stands for AI and Robotics Technology. We build innovations and ventures, often from the ground up, even before founders exist, right? Because the reason for our existence is to ask what are important technologies that India should have, right? And we are predominantly government funded, by Department of Science and Technology, Government of Karnataka, Ministry of Heavy Industries, right? And our focus is what you call robotics, autonomous systems, and AI. And in this mode, we've so far built 29 startups, bringing together capital, talent, what I say, facility-rich infrastructure, and most importantly, collaborations with industry. So my answer is mainly going to come from our collaborations with industry. Now, where does India stand? You are absolutely right. About most of the supply chain for manufacturing in India is in what you call SMEs, not quite the micro, but certainly SMEs, right? Much of them are barely digitized, leave alone automated, leave alone autonomous. That said, we have always been aspiring towards this Make in India vision, right? And if Indian manufacturing has to, let's say, contribute $1 trillion, which is our aspiration, it is absolutely not going to happen without increasing both things, right? Quantity and quality of what we manufacture, right? Now, and both of them, it's clear it cannot be done just by humans, right? So, which brings us to the concept of Industry 5.0, which is what we are trying to really engender in India. In Industry 5.0, the contrast, let's not get into semantics of what it is. Human centricity is supposed to be a key element of that, right? There is efficiency, agility, sustainability, right? But human centricity. Now, I think we are still discovering what this means for India, because the obvious fear is, hey, are we going to see a lot of job losses? I think that I usually answer that in two parts. One is, yes, we will see job losses even otherwise. Either we are competitive, right? Or just because we do not automate or autonomize doesn't mean jobs are going to be there, right? So we are seeing some early adopters, especially in automotive sector and electronics manufacturing. These are the two sectors in India that we are seeing a lot. And there's also an emergence of a new set of players, such as Adverb, right? There are also smaller ones. There's a company called Thwara we built doing core components of robotics. There's also folks who are also attempting even things like humanoids, right? Out of a little building in HSR in Bangalore. So I think we are in absolutely this moment where we know we need to do it, and we are seeing the talent come forth. And our job is to provide the ecosystem. The seeds are there, right? I think, can we provide the nutrition?
Actually, that's a very good point, and I think it's a good segue, because I just want to come back to Thamit on this. Thamit, you have worked with partners across the world, right? But where do you see the sort of a developer ecosystem in India for this, right, specifically?
Yeah, so we have a pretty rich ecosystem of partners in India who are working on physical AI and robotics. And in the last 2 days, I've been talking to some of the partners here, and it has further reinforced my belief that India really has the talent, the opportunity to leapfrog a lot of the other regions in being a leader in this space. One of the big things that India has right now is the whole talent pool from IT and computer science. What happens when you make manufacturing a digital problem or a software-defined problem is that all of the talent becomes a part of your manufacturing ecosystem. As Raghu was saying, we are seeing companies that are making AI models for training of robots, right? We have with the growth that open source has enabled right now, and NVIDIA is especially focused on this. We fundamentally believed that every region will need to have its own AI strategy, and our focus is to build an open platform so that countries, cities, institutes can all build their own AI applications on top. So Physical AI is very domain and region specific. It's not going to be like one AI model that's going to serve everybody. That just doesn't happen in physical AI. There is so much context that you need to know. So we are seeing that right now with the open source ecosystem that exists, and as we are moving manufacturing into a digital realm, the entire talent base, which has been working in IT and computer science, is now able to contribute to this effort. They're able to create digital twins, they're able to simulate things, they're able to collect data online. They don't have to go to a factory floor. It's possible today you can collect data sitting in your room with just access to internet and GPUs. You can create data, you can train your models, you can test how they're going to perform. So I think that entire opportunity is great. So of course India has the talent. Second is you have the demand for products. Like, biggest consumer economy, one of the biggest consumer economies, there is so much demand for products, local consumption of the products that you're building, that it absolutely makes sense to manufacture them locally, right? So the talent is there. There's a lot of global, manufacturing that's now moving to India, and then you have your own demand. So you've got the full loop, vicious circle that is needed to actually grow this into a meaningful industry.
So just thank you for that, Tamit. And Raghu, I'll come back to you on this, because theoretically everything that Tamit has said has always been the case in India, right? And yet our manufacturing has not really taken off in the way that we would have liked, right? And part of that is, again, just going back to the fact that most of our manufacturing is concentrated in SMEs who cannot scale beyond a point, who have issues of reaching the appropriate market of credit, et cetera, et cetera. Now, given India's factor conditions, it is entirely impossible for us to build the kind of, say, huge manufacturing concerns the way that China has built, right? But just judging by everything that Tamit has said and that you have said, Raghu, there's really no need also at this point of time, right? Especially like if everything gets pushed onto a software stack, right? You can have smaller units that are as efficient. But how do we get these smaller units like to start using, right, these services? Is there a DPI, right, of sorts that we can build for AI in manufacturing in India?
Yeah, so I'm going to expand. I'll call out a couple of things, right? Earlier, I keep using this. There is capital, talent, infrastructure, and meaningful deep collaborations, right? These, to us, generally, we have seen these are the 4 components. What you mentioned is the infrastructure aspect of it, right? Now, the talent is there. Lots of startups are coming up. And with the new technical approaches that physical AI is taking, I don't want to go, how many engineers in this, how many engineers working in robotics here? Ah, okay, very nice. Good to know our audience. Yeah, okay. Right? Yeah. He can go much more technical than I am. There is this whole aspect of vision, language, action models, VLAMs. And now there is something called unified uni-VLAMs. To put it very simply, how do my fingers know that the way I pick up this is this way, right? And the way I pick up this and turn it is this way. All I have are 2 cameras, right? And like I'm talking to you, explaining what I'm doing, this, right? So I'm going from vision to action, while, language probably is in my head subconsciously. I'm here verbalizing it in some way, right? Now, the traditional way of doing it, very traditional way of doing it, was first go this way, then turn this way, then do this way. You would code every joint in this, right? Whereas the new way is this, what you call vision language action models and unified vision language action models. And even fundamental, there's something called world models being built, which the understanding is, the understanding of physics in some way is encoded into it, right? That I'm not just looking at a 2D image that looks like a skewed cylinder, but it is actually, that looks like a rounded rectangle, right? That's what it looks like from here. But in reality, it's a cylinder that has a curved surface that has to be gripped this way, right? So India is already, earlier in our conversation, Amit called out, India is already the place that's generating a lot of data for training of this physical AI everywhere, right? So why can't we be the ones that actually builds the models too? And we are seeing that with smaller companies that are emerging, that are building these. An example of a company that we built is Kinesthetic, right? And they are actually, they have built these pipelines, and we are working with MeitY on creating a physical AI infrastructure. The physical AI infrastructure would imagine some sort of distributed network of sites that are all collecting data. The data would include something like the image, the sensors, the action, the precise motion, something is being maybe human controlled, right? And all that you put together in these pipelines and make it available. We did not exactly learn how to pick this up and pick this up. We generalized it. So when you have enough diversity of that data, then you can build generalizable models. So government is aggressively looking at it. Couple of things that are changing the game for India. The Anusandhan National Research Foundation, ANRF, that's 1 lakh crore pot of money. More recently, something called RDIF, Research Development Innovation Fund, which also pulls in the investment and industry side. That's another 1 lakh crore funds. So I think the capital is coming in very well. The physical infrastructure, I think there's going to be partnerships between folks like us, perhaps anchoring it, working with both government as well as industry, right? Now it's a matter of collaborations, right? And we see that also coming in. And my sense is actually, you will see this middle layer of companies who will be early leaders, as opposed to the largest that might not be able to move fast, the smallest that might not have the resources, but absolutely bet on the likes of, Adverb or Peppermint Robots and such, right? Who are in that small to medium levels.
Yeah, I'll just add to what Raghu said.
Sorry, that was a long answer, but hopefully that gives you.
No, absolutely. India is at the epicenter right now of the data economy for physical AI. There is tens of millions of hours of data that's being created for rest of the world to create and learn models. But the good thing is there is a pretty big open ecosystem available right now, and it just requires a strategic push from the government, from the industries locally, to not just be a source of enablement for the rest of the world, but to be actually do it for themselves as well, because all the tools are available. And one big challenge with physical AI is that there's some effort needed in terms of standardization, right? Whether it's on the data side, whether it's on the infrastructure side, and whether it's on the go-to-market side as well. Because as you know, AI on day one is not 100% performant. GPT-3 came on, and it learned from the people's feedback, and it became GPT-4 and 5 and 6. And if GPT-3 had not happened, you would not see GPT 5.2 that exists today. Without the data at scale, without the ability to go to market with the current form of the solution. And that's where some other industries, some other governments have been pushing that, understanding that you need to provide an opportunity and infrastructure to get the data flywheel to kick in. That's how AI works. Initially, on day zero, it's not going to be productive for you. But it's going to learn faster than anything else that you've seen before. And once it learns it, you can clone it overnight. You can create 100,000 copies of that and deploy it at scale. One of the challenges that we're seeing right now with some of the industries is, especially like electronics manufacturing, we can't build enough things. Building that infrastructure takes time. Moving the talent from even like one state to the other state and finding the right resources to actually do that work, it means that you're off by 12 months on your schedule. But once you digitize it with AI models, you can clone and scale really, really fast. So I think that effort, strategic push is essential. It requires, as we say in technology, the cold start problem, right? You need to provide that boot up infrastructure so that this thing can get into a data flywheel. And once that happens, then it's a self-sustaining industry. It keeps getting better and better. So initial push from the enterprises and from the government to provide that infrastructure, drive the standardization of data, giving the opportunity to get these deployments and improve them over time is going to be critical for the success.
So I think we have about 25 minutes left, and there seem to be several engineers in the room, so I want to leave enough time for questions. So I'll just touch upon one final topic before opening up the audience. I think everything that we've discussed so far has been quite positive. Like we all agree that the potential is immense, right? But I just want to come back on the question of jobs, right? Because it is a real issue. It is a potential issue. And especially in India, where we missed the first initial wave of manufacturing, and so we could not provide the kind of jobs that, say, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan did, right, to give their economy a boost. With autonomous factories, right, with AI in manufacturing, is there, in your opinion, right, in both of your opinions, and I'll leave it up to anybody who wants to answer, is there an actual sort of issue there, right? Is that something that we actually need to worry about, or is it, in your opinion, something that will solve, right, sort of get solved by itself?
Sure. So, what we at NVIDIA have been working on what we like to say $0 billion businesses for a long time. What $0 billion businesses means is when we enter those markets, there's no competition and there are no customers. And our mindset always has been that we will create the market, we'll grow the opportunity, and so there will be more to do, and we'll solve hard problems. And I think that is the reason I'm talking about that is because it's a mindset thing as well. If you think about the total opportunity as a fixed pie, then you're always looking for how am I going to take the share from the other person or the other country or the other region. But really, if the opportunity for manufacturing, the amount of things that need to be built, and the kind of products that we are building is going to change dramatically. I mean, most of our things that we build today are not designed with intelligence into them. The future products are going to have all intelligence into them. So, coming to your point, the whole idea that we don't believe that AI is going to take your job. It's likely going to be somebody who's using AI that's going to take the job, right? So that's one thing. So if you're not using AI, that is likely what is going to hurt you. And the second thing is when you see the productivity, when you see the efficiency, when you see the ability to create manufacturing at scale, there is no doubt in my mind that the things that India is manufacturing is going to explode. The total opportunity is going to increase. And when anytime, total opportunity increases, it creates jobs. So I think that those are the two important things to keep in mind when you're looking at job. First, every job is going to get changed for sure, right? But it's not AI that'll take your job. It's likely somebody who's using AI. And the second thing is the total, if you invest in AI, if you start in automation, autonomy, it will expand the total opportunity of what we are manufacturing, and that will further create more jobs in total.
So it will increase the pie, so to say.
Yeah, I do not disagree that it can increase the pie, but I do think there's a fundamental issue about, and this is not actually specific to AI, but AI we are especially seeing this, right? You can create a billion-dollar company with 10 people, right? Now, so what happens to the remaining 1,000 people that need jobs? That's a question. And actually, we need to look. We can look at U.S. economy. IBM at its peak had something like 100,000 people, with a valuation, maybe inflation-adjusted valuation, not quite at what NVIDIA is, but in that vicinity, right? But NVIDIA, I think, has achieved that with just 10,000 people, or maybe 40,000, right? But when NVIDIA got to that inflation-adjusted valuation, it was just 10,000 people, right? So I think at a policy level, we can't be glib about the fact that there are policy checks and balances required to see that usually profits accrue to capital, right? Profits accrue to ownership, which means most of the economic value will accrue to the owners of the IP, owners of the shares in the company, and the top talent, right? So I think this is a really fundamental challenge, and in India especially, where much of our manufacturing sector is dependent on no skill and low skill folks, I think we are really searching for answers. I don't think those answers are entirely in manufacturing policy. They are actually in the very way we skill and educate our population from age 4, right? Because we have essentially created an education system which is about not even knowledge learning, it's rote regurgitation. I can regurgitate the encyclopedia without ever learning it right here. So what does that mean? So then it comes to more things like complex tasks, like understanding motivations, reasoning, managing people, agency in thinking, right? So that you can use the right AI tools to do what you need to do. And I think this is I think what we need to do for the ages, let's say 50 to 70, ages like, 25 to 50, and ages 5 to 25 are different in this, right? And this is where I think actually our education system and policy will play a huge, huge role. So sorry, I don't have. What we are seeing though is, again, we see some smaller companies beginning to take the effort of modernizing, and also methodically looking at, hey, how do we upskill our workforce? It's just that things are moving so fast, it's a bit scary, honestly.
Yeah, and you're right. I think the fact that a 10 people team today can do what would have initially required a team of 1,000 people. That if you start thinking it from that perspective, the way you look at the job market, the way you look at the opportunity changes dramatically. And that's why we believe the startup ecosystem that you are building is absolutely critical. We will see a lot more small teams that can independently create applications, products, and solutions that were not possible previously, because you needed a scale, you needed an organization that can do that for you. But now with the access to all this technology and the knowledge that's available, it's possible to create really, really small teams that can do a lot of different things. So I think we will see a change in how organizations are structured.
Great. So I think education and skilling is a completely, it can be a whole day session right unto itself, right, in India. But just just both your points are well taken, and I think it is as important to have 1,000 companies, right, that do like $500 million each, right? Or $1 billion each, and even if they have like 20, 30 people each, that does not matter. Instead of just trying to build that one company, right, that has 1,000 people. So I think we are right at the 15-minute mark. So we'll now just open up the floor for the audience questions, if there's anybody who wants to ask. Right, so at the back first.
10, 20 or so, right? Have until 10,
Yeah.
20 or so.
I think, yeah. So, yeah.
We started early, that's why it says we actually have 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Hi, first of all, thank you for very good information. So coincidentally, last week we completed our business strategy for next 3 years. And one of the main thing we want to focus on, the lab of future. So maybe a chemistry lab or a discovery lab, drug discovery standpoint, we want human to be more of an aggregator. And all the labor job, like sample management, cell cultivation, those kind of things to be done by the robo-arms. So, and then we have all our infrastructure based upon on-premise NVIDIA GPUs. So we would like to know what precisely NVIDIA is doing, very much specifically for drug discovery, so where we can have more robo-arms in the lab and less of human arms.
So, when we think about robotics at NVIDIA, we think about the core base technology that is needed to enable all AI robotics. And it's not over-indexed on specific use case, because that's where we rely on the ecosystem, right? So we know that if for your particular example, you would need robots that can navigate and understand environments where people coexist, right? So what we've done there is, first, we have built a platform where you can actually create a digital twin of your lab, right? This becomes a playground where you can give it to all your developers to say, you have access to the lab. Nobody needs to come in, and they can start building applications for it. The second thing we have done is we have, as Raghu was talking about, we have foundation models, open source foundation models that have learned the basic intelligence needed for a robot. What's the basic intelligence needed for a robot? If it's your humanoid, you should be able to walk. You should be able to move your hands in a certain place. You should be able to pick things. But the reasoning part of it, which is very specific to your trade, is something that you can just collect data and train these models. So our open system ecosystem is we are investing heavily in doing what we call pre-training, where the robots and the foundation models, our Cosmos models, our Groot models, can learn the basic atomic intelligence that is universal, that applies to every robot, every country, every task. And then we are working with the ecosystem. If you go to NVIDIA booth, you'll see a lot of domain ecosystem and startups that are building on top of these models and our tools and creating domain-specific applications with your own data. So to answer your question, we are building that foundation layer and the ecosystem that will create these applications. And it's totally possible to have fully automated wet labs where robots are doing the experiments, and then you have physical AI that's actually running the experiments, and then there's a digital AI that is analyzing all the data, and you go into the iteration loop much faster.
Wait, sorry. I'll just come there. If you can just introduce yourself. Right.
Okay, thanks Amit, Raghu, Shashank. Myself, Nikhil Sharma. I'm currently working with Synopsys India. Thank you for your very insightful discussion. I mean, a lot of curiosity around AI, but the biggest confusion that the current generation of engineers have is where to start from, right? So, we are hearing that people should upskill, people should change the way they are looking at the things. So what would be your advice to those folks to, go wind and looking towards upskilling themselves? Thank you.
Sure. by the way, I think how to upskill yourself given what your skill is and where that particular space is going is the sort of thing actually something like ChatGPT can answer very well, right? Right? Because you can actually have this conversation, right? Where you can say, look, I'm so and so, I have these skills, I work in such and such industry, and I want to make sure I have a job for 10 years at least, right? Or what's the skill set? What's the technology stack evolving? It's actually amazingly beautiful that you don't need any of us to answer this question today,
Talk to it.
right? Just talk to the damn bot, right? Right? So, so I think the biggest thing is a mindset shift. The mindset shift is that of being told what to do, being advised what to do, to figuring out what to do. The mindset shift is of agency. I think we have too long been in this mindset where someone tells you what to do, your teacher tells you what to do, your manager tells you what to do. I do not want to hire any such people, right? I think be it engineers, now sure, with engineers, you're generating code, writing code the way we used to, starting with hello world, is gone out. But that doesn't mean that you need to be able to quality check the code that has been generated and write a few tests for it. I'm not saying you need to quality check line by line, right? So the need to have fundamentals is non-negotiable, right? So use AI not as something that generates answers, but develops your understanding when you're in the training mode. Once you're in the doing mode, use AI to create your first prototypes, but you have the knowledge to then use maybe that AI or some other AI to do the quality checks, right? So that you can ship it with confidence, right? So this is the main, I don't think I'm actually saying anything fundamentally new or I'm saying anything that you didn't already know, but I thought I'll just share this, right?
You're absolutely right. The other thing that I will just add is most of these AI models, as I said earlier, they're going to be really good generalists with a very good general intelligence. So having the domain expertise is what's going to be critical. You know, you really have to think about this like, you know, once you had iPhone, then all these applications could be built on top of it. So I think that's the big shift. You need to have a domain specific application, expertise, craft. So now you have an assistant who can do the work. You tell it what it needs to be done, right? So that's the difference.
So I want to ask you two questions. My name is Deva Sitaram. The first question I want to ask is like when we are building robots which are based on these probabilistic models, let's say if there are any mistakes, right? Like it drops something in the wet lab, you know, it's going to be serious consequences. That is one thing. And a non-technical question, you know, we are talking about reskilling, upskilling and all. There are 1.5 billion people in India. Let's say 500 million people have to be reskilled. It is going to take $2 per person per year. It is going to be $1 billion. So some people cannot even be reskilled, right? I mean, you know, say somebody who doesn't know English, somebody, a Tamil factory worker, I'm from Tamil Nadu. How will they learn English? How will they, you know, do the AI and all these kind of things? Are we just going to ignore all these people and do the automation actually? And that will lead to a lot of social unrest and, you know, all that kind of stuff actually.
I mean, I can take the you know, the safety part of it. Of course, you know, that is the big thing that differentiates physical AI and digital AI. You know, if you get a bad answer, you can give it a thumbs down, and it learns and it gets better. What do you do with the physical AI? You don't have you know, it exists in a physical world, and as you said, mistakes are super costly, and so there are two things that, you know, we are doing to address that problem. One is simulation. So you can, really test it extensively, give it in a lot of diverse scenarios and adverse scenarios to see what your AI is going to do. You absolutely need to do that. You cannot just vibe check and send it out into the world. So simulation is and digital twins where you validate and test these physical AI is extremely important. And the second thing is on the deployment side, where people often ask, why is NVIDIA bringing so much compute onto the edge? That's because we as humans, we have multiple things that are checks and balances that are checking for what we are doing is correct or not subconsciously. So we released a model called Alpha Mayo for self-driving. And it's a fundamental shift in how AI works for self-driving cars. Like today, the AI knows how to drive, but the Alpha Mayo model is a reasoning model. And when it sees there is a ball on the road, it just doesn't say there's a ball in the road and what should I do? It takes a few steps. It's a ball in the road. Where am I? I'm in a, driving in a local neighborhood. Who plays with the ball in a local neighborhood? There's likely a kid that's coming there. So the behavior is determined by reasoning. So, whenever something like this happens, you need to have reasoning capabilities running on the device to be able to kind of provide the supervision. And so those are the two ways I think we are trying to look at the safety aspect, that you have an AI, but you have another monitoring AI that is making sure that the primary AI is doing the right things. And second is just focus a lot on simulation for your verification and validation. I think the last question, I think today AI has no language barrier, as well as I know. We have systems that can translate across, and that's the beauty of this current wave of AI, is that it's.
So there are some challenges that are going to be more persistent. I think the language barrier will be a less persistent barrier. Yeah. So for example, I'll give you an example. We run one of India's largest open source language efforts, spanning 180 districts, collecting the way we speak at home, right, with our neighbors and friends, not just the way it's on TV or in Bollywood or, or in, on a Tamil channel, right? So that we actually understand what they are saying. So there are very aggressive language-related efforts, right? So I think the challenge of translation itself is lower. I think the bigger challenge is the thing you talked about, are we going to leave literally hundreds of millions of people behind, right? This is a very real fear, and I don't think we have good answers. The only answer we have, to me, the best answer I have is that actually we have known that our education system's broken for a very, very long time. It's mostly a filtration system, right? Where you throw a zillion people at JEE and you'll get a couple of thousand that are good, right? That we didn't actually solve the challenge of educating the zillion people, right? We only solved for the consumers of the talent, which is us, here is where I think actually AI and the entrepreneurial movement is where I would bet on it. There is national education policy, all these good things are there, which are essentially in some sense aligning principles. But we all know execution eats strategy for breakfast, right? So the execution, I also do not think will be massively centralized, right? I think it's the millions of entrepreneurs creating tools for folks to learn that is going to be the real answer, right? So, and AI actually allows one to do that, right? My son actually says, hey, he's in 8th standard. He says, look, I actually feel like my day at school is a waste. I could learn so much more by myself. All my teachers care about is keeping us silent. Yeah. by the way, by himself as in collaboration with AI bots, right? That's what he meant, not sit and just play around, right?
Yeah. Hi, Amit. This is Gaurav. So there are questions about upskilling, right? Why don't you share some of the NVIDIA's learning path on robotics and this physical AI, right? The free courses which are available, which can be used by this audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for reminding. We have a deep learning institute where we provide free courses, and it starts from very beginner level, where we explain what AI is, how generative AI works, and advances into how you collect data, because AI is fundamentally a data-driven problem-solving approach, right? So we go about explaining what what AI is, how can you collect data, how can you train your AI models, and then how you can deploy them on the edge. So there's a big library of courses that's available from the Deep Learning Institute from NVIDIA. These are free and available. Highly recommend you all, if you want to pursue a career and opportunities in AI, to look into that.
Okay, so we have time for just one more question, right? If you don't mind, I'll ask this young gentleman because.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir. So my name is Aditya. I'm a freshly graduate engineer, robotics engineer from Bharati Vidyapeeth. My question is to both Amit sir and Raghu sir. So as previously discussed about the automation systems and manufacturing factories, remote operation enables personnel to manage factory system without being physically present on site. Well, this raises a critical concern. If any event of a cyber attack targeting automatic system or robotics, for example, a virus overriding production parameters from design A to design B, how exactly would such a situation be identified and it would be resolved? Like if there's a DOS attack or a MITM attack, how it can be resolved or identified? Thank you.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing here is to recognize that these threat vectors exist. The mistakes happen when you assume that the world is ideal and there are no bad actors. But once you assume that there is going to be bad actors and these threats are going to exist, you can put safety measures and guardrails in your implementation. Right? So one of the things that even when you're doing teleoperation right now, if you have a whole body control system that is constantly monitoring and checking for, like, let's say you're working in a collaborative application, you can sense the force on the joints and see there is excessive force. You can have an override system that's running on the edge, on the robot, which is going to prevent it from doing that action, right? And it extends from that to your networking solutions that you're building. Are you making them, how are you addressing cybersecurity in your networking implementation? And then the last piece is the person who is operating it, right? If you have a layer of agent in between that is doing the monitoring, and I was giving you the example of the self-driving car where it's looking at it has all the context, and it is double checking and reasoning through that, is this following the right intent that was given, then you can prevent it. So I think safety and security is always like a system level problem that you need to break it down and address it at each piece, and always starts from first recognizing that this is a problem, right?
Raghu, just wait.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to answer that question. I felt like we missed a kind of important movement that is happening in how things get designed, which is core of industry. We talked about coding, but there are other things too. For example, there's a team called Zentique at Art Park that's building what you call scientific foundation models for things like thermal analysis and computational fluid dynamics that are core to designing many things. Old way of doing it is using software such as ANSYS, SolidWorks, etc., which would have deterministic models behind them. The new way of doing it is foundation models that actually understand the science behind it, right? And these are some sort of new tools that are coming out, and it will be very important for when we talk about skilling, for folks to be aware of these new set of tools, right? Your professor might teach you how to use CAD in the old way, but you will need to learn how to use some of these newer tools and do design in a very, very new way, which actually ramps up your iterations, right? And verify your designs much faster.
All right, so I think our time is up, but just please join me in thanking Tamit and Raghu for a very entertaining, and very interesting conversation, and I am sure they'll be available after the discussion, for any questions that you might have. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being great audience.